Hey everyone, I'm Aedangraef, and on this episode of the Untrained Ear, we are diving into what is likely to be the most jam packed week to date on this show. Opening things up with Fancy That by the artist PinkPantheress. Let's get into it. So, Fancy That is the second debut mixtape by British singer, songwriter, and record producer Victoria Beverly Walker. This album certainly falls into the pop genre with influences in the spheres of house, glitch pop, dance pop, and electronica. Victoria has proven across both this record and her previous that she is certainly no slouch when it comes to mixing and producing a track. With very short and punchy dance mixes that are certain to keep you moving through the entirety of this very brief 20-minute venture. Though clearly artificially enhanced, it stands worthy to accolade her glossy, smooth vocals. She has a style that is eerily reminiscent of the likes of Ariana Grande, Melanie Martinez, though Victoria may actually have a leg up on both of them when it comes to the musicality of anything that she dips her fingers into. Zing. So I'm actually going to open up by talking about the opening track to this album called Illegal. Despite what it seems like on the surface, this is actually a very deep and itchy track. The mixing is very dance pop uh, with glitzy synth and electronic samples. The vocal progression mimics this kind of airheaded pop single style, almost to the effect where you want to ignore the lyrics. But if you take a glance, you're graced with this chorus. One after one, now you're sitting on my bed. Then later on, we can talk on it instead. Two into one while you're sitting on my bed. Then later on, I can feel shame in my head. Okay, whoa. This is not very glitzy, happy, go lucky, poppy, like worry later, like it kind of seems on the surface. So then you start to notice things in the mix, right? The paparazzi clicks, maybe they're not as fun and glitzy. Maybe they're more thematic and double entendre than you think. Maybe it's a play on overexposure. And then you start to notice other things, like, for example, there's a piercing scream mixed into the track. And then there's this breathing segment, and on the surface you think it's breathing, but whoa, maybe that's anxiety breathing. Maybe this is a more tension-ridden piece than you thought. I mean, the track is called Illegal. And then I'm getting all these like sudden like drawbacks, and then I jump back a verse, right? And you get this. You get we'll meet again when my head works like it used to. And maybe next time I'll tell my girl come through. I like the fact we don't communicate as long as you don't tell all your best mates. So this is actually a lot heavier and deeper and darker and more drenched in second thoughts and tension and anxiety and double entendre than you immediately get on the surface, which I think is a good nod to what you get with, I think, the vast majority of this album when it comes to the production effects. In terms of lyricality, I think this is probably the deepest it gets on this album, but I think this track is nice to that effect. Um, so I think it was worth a nod. There were a lot of tracks that were worth pointing out for the production value because Victoria is a pretty well established producer. She's got accolades for this, a very nice spread of them. In fact, for somebody who's only in their second debut feature length project. With that being said, I think there were some other tracks that were worth pointing out. Nice to Know You was one of these that I really felt was a little different in vibe. You have this nice conglomeration of strings and super epic soaring ideas with drum rolls in what is ultimately this like kind of brief fast-paced club banger. It was a really nice blend of like orchestral music with like dance pop, and the William Orbit feature in this track was a nice pick to accompany it, so that one gets a nod. And then Stateside I liked. This had a really hefty, like glitch pop, hyper pop kind of feel to it. The mixing is super dense and lush, but the needle of chaos is just threaded masterfully to craft this really expert mix. Particularly, I really loved the use of the 808s, and it seems to be running this theme that PinkPantheress just really knows what she's doing with the synth, and it really just carries the background in a lot of these tracks and is used as this transitionary or progressing piece that escalates you to the different phases of each track and is just used to like usher you forward along the road of the song. And I just think it's so smooth and such a nice like feature that you cannot emphasize enough with her, that specifically in stateside I felt like it was really just like smooth and seamlessly done. Also in this piece I felt like the drums and the electric guitar were worth a nod. They just, I felt, jive really well with the electronic elements, and they were very grounding. The vocals here are very glossy and bubblegum, which really juxtapose all of the overproduced elements really nicely. It's got this very like Charlie XCX feel, the whole track does, and yeah, it was a really nice like summer banger. So kind of released just in time, I think. Moving on to Romeo. This one, I got to give props to these May album drops. Another just like really cohesive, solid closer to an album. It feels like Victoria really pulls all the stops on production for this piece. It really felt like everything was here. You got the 808s, you got the synth, you got the keyboard, you have just fantastic sample selections. You got the glitches, you've got the extra noise injections, right? And then instrumentally, you've got the use of electric guitar, you've got drums, bass, violin, tambourine, and it all just really jives together to create this dance mix that's just super hyper pop coded. And Victoria even throws mix ups into the vocal progression on this track where she actually breaks into pieces that feel very rap influenced and others that are very soaring and pop coded, a la Olivia Rodrigo, Magdalena Bay, Charlie XCX. I also really like the crowd jump ins on this. It gives the song a really fun, like live performance esque element to it. Sonically, I think this is an excellent wrap up to the album. It touches on elements of genre blending and production excellence. Just really cohesive and strong piece. Getting into the criticism on this album, before I even jump into that, there's a piece I want to talk on, which is I've decided not necessarily criticism, but more something that I do want to mention, which is that I think the brevity of this album doesn't sonically push Victoria's wings enough. And I think that as a producer, she has demonstrated between this and her previous project that she's immensely adept. And I think that I, as a listener, am ready to hear the next bit of what she has to offer. So what I was really hoping for with this project was to see something a little different from her. And so I guess it's like I just don't think this is criticism, because what she has been doing and what she is doing is fantastic and phenomenal and better than a lot of the queens of the pop sphere currently. But I would love to see some other sides of her explored sonically. But I just don't consider this piece criticism. Now, where I do have criticism is in one track particularly, and that is noises. I don't think the sample paid off, and I don't think the mixing super pays off in this. The sample especially just throws me off. I think it's very cutting from the what is solid production up until the point where it's introduced, and then sonically it's a pace changer, and you get spoken word from Victoria, and it just kind of pulls you back and like forces you to take a step back from the mix, and it's very quiet and contrasting with everything else that you're getting from the song up until that point. It pulled my immersion out from the track, and you already have an intermission in the album that is pace changing. So I feel like this was almost like a second intermission, but a less effective one and a jarring one. I feel like it was a pace breaker, and I was just not super hype about the track. It is one that um, I don't want to skip for like the first almost half. And then as soon as the sample cuts in, I'm like, okay, this is a skip. With all that being said, I do think this is a phenomenal project. I was very happy to listen to it. I have very few gripes with it. It is brief, but it is potent. And I would have to say this earns a baseless rating from me of an eager 8.